Today, I want to talk about how the American right, the conservatives, are abandoning capitalism and free markets, which is not a new phenomenon, but it's worth talking about every once in a while. And I want to start with our good friend, Charlie Kirk, who recently he did an event with Turning Point USA. For those who don't know, Turning Point USA, it is a campus organization. Their YouTube channel has over 540,000 subscribers. This was an event from April 13th, just a couple weeks ago this year. Has 4,000 views. Turning Point USA, if you go to their website, they claim to promote free markets, freedom, capitalism, which is all stuff that I like. But I thought this was really telling. This was in a Q&A session. Let's see what Charlie Kirk had to say here. And Charlie Kirk is someone that I've talked about before, about how he has slowly moved away from capitalism and free markets over the years.
People who are trying to close the door against young people like me.
Okay, yeah, that's a fair question. So it was a mixed bag. So part of the bill really hurt people in California. I'm not going to lie. It raised taxes on you because it got rid of your state and local deductions.
So Charlie Kirk is talking about the Trump tax cuts. And this is his position now on the Trump tax cuts. Remember, when Trump was in office and Charlie Kirk needed a cheerlead for Trump, he kept talking about how great the economy was. And in some ways it was. And in some ways it was thanks to the tax cuts. But now he seems to have a different stand on it.
There's a reason for that. The reason the federal government would make for that is, why should we subsidize your high taxes while other states can get their fiscal house in order? So that's a pretty good argument. I'm not going to lie that someone in Texas doesn't get the same sort of tax benefit that you get in California. The inverse is like, you're a young person, you didn't maybe you chose to live here, maybe not. There were some benefits to the tax bill. I think it unnecessarily pandered to big corporations.
It unnecessarily pandered to big corporations. You guys hearing this?
There were some benefits to the tax bill. I think it unnecessarily pandered to big corporations that hate our values. I'll be very honest. Corporations hate conservative values. A lot of them are incredibly woke. Why we went out of our way to try to lower corporate tax rates that hate us is beyond me. Not because I don't think it's good economics. I just don't think it's good for the country to give more money to companies that are giving $100 million to BLM.
Now notice how he frames it. He's kind of borrowing some stuff from the left. He's framing a tax cut as a giveaway. And maybe it was just a poor use of words, but,
Like, not exactly something I think we should go out of our way for.
Not something we should go out of our way for. Now, a couple years ago, I did a video titled Charlie Kirk Doesn't Understand Economics, where I covered his double standard, where he defended Trump imposing tariffs in the name of protectionism, which caused a lot of damage, and he responded to that by saying, oh, well, what about the corporate tax cuts? That ended up helping Americans make more money. And this was kind of a double standard he was dealing with. And even before that, Turning Point USA, they used to invoke slogans like taxation is theft, which is more of a principled moral argument against raising taxes versus the economic consequences, which he even pays lip service to in this. But now he seems to have second thoughts because, hey, we're giving money to corporations who are woke. Do we really want to be helping them out and give more money and giving them more money?
Some other provisions, though, in the tax bill that aren't talked about, such as increasing the standardized middle class deduction for having children. It was a marginal increase. It wasn't that significant. But here's something that you and I could probably agree on, which is, okay, you're trying to make a political decision, right? Republican and Democrat. And you're like, wow, Republicans control the House and the Senate and the presidency, and that's the best you can do. I agree. That's an incredibly underwhelming policy accomplishment if that's the best you can do. Meanwhile, in my personal opinion, you do nothing on the southern border, right? You do nothing meaningful to address our drug overdose problems in our country, nothing meaningful to address student debt or the scam of college, nothing meaningful to address some of these other systemic issues. And so I think it was designed by lobbyists for major corporations. And I do agree.
Designed by lobbyists for major corporations. Look who's sounding like Bernie Sanders now.
Agree with a lot of the economics of it. Let me be clear.
Yeah, he still agrees with the economics.
I think that there is something to be said to open up, supply side to help production and all that. But I think it's lost a lot of the times. I think demand side is compelling at times. It's overindulged upon, I think, by certain liberal economists. But it's hard to disagree with you that that tax bill probably didn't speak with you. I'm not going to stand up here and say it's the greatest bill ever. There were some good provisions for it. There were some questionable ones. But I think that we look at that, I am frustrated that that has to be the piece of legislation that I, as a conservative, have to say, oh yeah, go give us political power back and you get more of that. Like, really? I think Republicans watching need to realize you guys have to do a lot better than just cutting corporate taxes for Google and Facebook and Amazon.
Yeah, so yeah, conservatives. This is how he feels about corporate taxes now. Not a principled stance that yeah, this is America. This is America. We're supposed to have capitalism and free markets, and how great is that? Taxation is theft. And now he's went from that to, well, corporate taxes, yeah, they're good economics, but do we really want to give more money and fight to lower the taxes for woke corporations like Amazon and Apple and Google?
You absolutely suck!
In other words, tax cuts are only good so long as the quote-unquote left does not benefit significantly. This is what characterizes the American right now. The only guiding principle that they have is owning the left, destroying the left. Everything else goes so long as we can beat the left by some standard. But it's not just Charlie Kirk. We also have Laura Ingraham at Fox News. This video has over 700,000 views, and she put up this segment talking, this is a 9.5 minute segment. We're only going to watch a short clip of it, but she talks about how companies like Apple and Disney are getting involved with lobbying, and how she doesn't like that. And this is how she closes the segment.
They don't need to purchase if they don't want to. And when Republicans, they get back into power, Apple and Disney need to understand one thing.
They need to understand one thing.
Everything will be on the table. Your copyright and trademark protection.
Copyright and trademark protections.
Your special status within certain states.
Special status, yeah, we're going to get to that. But copyright and trademark protection. Yeah, I seem to remember when when Obama was in office and there was discussion about suspending the Washington Redskins trademark because it wasn't politically correct. People on the right, like Rush Limbaugh, rightfully so, were making a big fuss about this. Like, yeah, this is messed up. You can't just suspend trademark protections because it happens to be of a trademark you don't like because it's politically incorrect. Although this article on PolitiFact claims that it was not Obama, pulling the strings here. I guess that's all speculation, but yeah, we shouldn't be arbitrarily suspending trademarks for companies we don't like or for trademarks we don't like. And I could imagine a scenario where Republicans get in office and they redraft copyright law to maybe shorten some of the copyrights, and then Disney ends up losing the rights over Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse enters the public domain, and a lot of people will defend this by saying, well, maybe Disney had too long of a copyright over Mickey Mouse. Maybe it's time to put him in the public domain, which, okay, there's a debate to be had there, but this isn't done out of a sense of justice, out of making a more objective standard for copyright law. No, in Laura Ingram's case, this needs to be done as retribution for lobbying against the right.
And even your corporate structure itself.
Even your corporate structure itself.
The Antitrust Division at Justice needs to begin the process of considering which American companies need to be broken up once and for all.
And for what purpose?
For competition's sake, and ultimately for the good of the consumers who pay the bills.
I guess she's paying lip to like, oh yeah, this will be good for the consumers. But it sounds like the reason why she wants antitrust applied is not out of some, and I know I go against the grain on antitrust and monopolies. But even if you agree that antitrust is good, it should be applied. Obviously, if there's a monopoly that needs to be broken up, it shouldn't be used as a club by politicians who have an axe to grind against corporations they don't like. So apparently this is why we need to maybe rethink copyright law, maybe apply antitrust, maybe rethink corporate structures and rethink special status. Not out of any principle to free markets or individual rights or the Constitution, but hey, these corporations, they're going woke, and we should try to find any means necessary to punish them. And this brings us to Ben Shapiro, who had some things to say in response to the state of Florida revoking Disney's special district over the area that is known as Disney World.
Florida is a state that is well known for its association with Disney. In the 1960s, Florida gave...
I guess I should say first, this is Ben Shapiro. For those who don't know, he has nearly 4.5 million subscribers. This video, this podcast, currently has 418,000 views, and it was just put up a few days ago.
A special dispensation to Disney to build its theme parks. And one of the reasons why it did this is the idea was that Disney needed that sort of dispensation, a sort of Vatican-like carve-out, so that they could create their city of the future. That never materialized. Instead, it turned into Epcot Center. But Disney has maintained its Reedy Creek special tax district for about 50 years in this country. Well, now that seems like it may be on the verge of going away. And the reason that it's on the verge of going away is because F around and find out. This is the theme of what is going on with Disney.
Yeah, Disney, they effed around and they found out.
Disney, right.
This is his attitude over what's going on.
Now, according to the Wall Street Journal, the Republican-led Florida Senate passed a bill on Wednesday that would eliminate a special tax district that allows Walt Disney to govern the land where its theme parks sit, as lawmakers target the company for opposing legislation restricting classroom instruction on gender and sexuality. The GOP-led House will likely vote to approve the measure on Thursday. Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, who called for lawmakers to consider such a bill in special session he convened this week, has made clear he would sign it. Losing the nearly 40-square-mile district near Orlando could be a major blow to Disney's Florida operations. The special district, created in 1967, known as the Reedy Creek Improvement District, exempts Disney from a host of regulations and certain taxes and fees. It has allowed the entertainment company to manage its theme parks and resorts in the state with little red tape for more than 50 years. It saves Disney tens of millions of dollars a year, according to a person familiar with the company's finances who studied the issue over a decade ago.
Hell yeah.
On Wednesday, Disney declined to comment on the bill, which is pretty significant given that Disney couldn't shut up about the Florida Parental Rights in Education Act. So now they've decided that it's time to shut up. And the reason they've decided to shut up is because they're realizing now that there are consequences to getting involved in political issues that do not involve you.
All right. So I guess that now if you take a stand, take a political stand, you should expect some consequences. And it looks like Ron DeSantis made this official. This is according to Fox News. DeSantis signs bill stripping Disney of self-governing status. And let's get everything straight here. This is a 100% spiteful move by Ron DeSantis. This move is all about, as Ben Shapiro even mentioned earlier in this video, this is all about punishing Disney for publicly scrutinizing the parental rights in education bill. This is the state of Florida punishing Disney for voicing their political stand. Now, a lot of people have been cheering this on, making excuses, saying that the Reedy Creek Improvement District was some unfair special favor and that this is actually more of a free market approach. I don't agree with that, and I will explain why. But even if you like the outcome and think it's justified, let's be honest and agree that this was done not out of some mission that Ron DeSantis has to turn Florida into some Milton Friedman-like free market paradise. Otherwise, why did Ron DeSantis wait until the final year of his first term to correct this alleged injustice?
That's a mystery.
And this would normally be outrageous, and I think it's even more alarming when you consider that Ron DeSantis is a serious contender to be the next president of the United States. Is this what we can expect from a Ron DeSantis presidency if a corporation or maybe even a high-profile person speaks out against a piece of legislation that he signs? Will he look for a way to punish them politically? Is this what we can look forward to? But let's talk about the Reedy Creek Improvement Act for a minute. I've been reading Aaron Goldberg's book about the history of Disney World titled Buying Disney World, the story of how Florida's swampland became Walt Disney World. And I have not read the entire book yet, but from what I've learned so far, basically Walt Disney was not entirely satisfied with how Disneyland in California turned out. He wished that he had bought more land so that he can maintain more control over the outskirts of Disneyland. And on top of that, he was looking to build a theme park in the East Coast so that he could better meet the demands in that market. And he eventually settled on Central Florida, secretly buying a bunch of undesirable, swampy-ass land. And according to the book, this is basically what the Reedy Creek Improvement District does. In its simplest form, these acts basically gave Disney complete legal power and control over its land, drainage, utilities, sewer systems, construction, public transportation, airports, fire and EMS, and so on and so forth. And to my knowledge, this does not include services like police, courts, and prisons. So this does not exactly sound like a deviation from capitalism to me. Disney got more autonomy over their own fucking private property. And according to this book, it allowed Disney to operate a lot more efficiently, build stuff the way they wanted to build it, and they actually developed a lot of amazing stuff. The book goes on to say, according to an interview with General Potter from 1984, not the book, I imagine it's the year, much of this innovation could not have happened without the control they wield through the Reedy Creek Improvement District, saying, it gave us all the powers of 2 counties in which we sit to the exclusion of their exercising any powers, and of course it let us issue bonds. We could do anything the city or the county could do. The only powers that still reside on us from outside are the taxing power of Orange County, the sales tax of the state, and the inspection of elevators. We had to have the power of our own building codes. We adopted the Southeast's strongest building codes, which still exist in the Reedy Creek Improvement District. We had to do our own zoning. The zoning of a property is a very political thing. Just because Disney had this freedom and control did not mean that it cut corners or took an easier or cheaper route to construction. In fact, it tended to go the more expensive and time-consuming course. For example, it was uncommon in the 1960s to have a fire sprinkler in every room of a building. Disney's property featured sprinklers, smoke detectors, and fire monitoring systems in every room on its property. Disney also pioneered and developed strict standards for structural design and implemented the use of new materials such as fiberglass, which was often used for roads and show buildings. And if you read more of this, it talks about how Disney did a lot of other innovative things like making power generators to power the buildings on this property. They also developed innovative sewage and waste management systems. And Disney World probably never gets built without the Reedy Creek Improvement District. Thanks to the Reedy Creek Improvement Act, Disney managed to turn 25,000 acres of swampy-ass land into a booming economy. Now, if, say, a company like Six Flags or Cedar Point or Universal Studios, if they bought 20,000 acres in Florida and sought to do the same thing and got denied, then maybe I could see the argument that this is some sort of special favor. But even as Ben Shapiro will talk about in this video, a lot of other companies have these kind of deals in the state of Florida. I think I've read that over 1,000 companies in Florida have some sort of special district status. And you know what? Even if you don't agree with me that this is a proper application of law to the market, again, at least recognize that DeSantis is doing this for bullshit reasons. If anything, you should probably be upset that DeSantis did not do this earlier. Like what? Disney has received this unfair advantage for decades and now you're just getting around to it? Why? Because they don't like your education legislation? So what? If Disney said nothing, then you would have just let this unfair advantage continue? That's how you apply justice? Yeah, it's just contingent on people liking you Is that how you do things, Ron, you giant fucking baby? DeSantis is behaving like a total strongman here, and I'm also wondering, did he even have to do this? Because it looks like DeSantis still has strong approval ratings in Florida. I'm guessing he's probably going to cruise to re-election. I doubt Republicans will lose the legislature in Florida anytime soon, so what was DeSantis and the Republicans worried about? Were they afraid that like Mickey Mouse and Goofy and the cast of High School Musical were just going to sneak into the legislature and repeal his legislation? Is that what was going to happen?
No, of course not.
But no, Ron DeSantis, he's owning the left, and apparently that's all that really matters anymore.
We expect corporations all over the spectrum to get involved in economic-based issues. We understand that corporations are going to get involved in questions with regard to regulations of their industry, but
So I guess if it's an economic issue, corporations are allowed to chime in, right? Even if it's a bad thing, like Amazon, for example. Oh, I'm going after Amazon today? See, I usually defend people like Jeff Bezos and companies like Amazon when they're, I think, unfairly criticized by the left, but sometimes Amazon does some despicable things. Like here on their website, they talk about how they've been lobbying Congress to increase the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. And I know a lot of cynical people on the right have said that this is merely Amazon trying to find ways to strong arm their competition, namely mom and pops who might not be able to afford to raise their minimum wages the way a giant corporation like Amazon could do. I'm guessing it has more to do with altruism. Either way, this is a shitty thing for Amazon to advocate for because it will cause destruction. It will be a burden on a lot of businesses, and it will stop individuals from getting jobs that they want and need. But I guess this is fine because it's an economics issue, according to Ben Shapiro.
sort of been a general understanding that corporations are not to get involved in things like educational issues.
Yeah, only economic issues. And I guess right now I would like to clarify that while I am a fan of Disney, I am a customer of Disney in a variety of ways. They are far from a perfect corporation. I understand why a lot of people hate it when corporations in general get involved in politics. I can even sympathize with a lot of people who are frustrated with Disney, who will chime in on stuff like this parental rights in education bill in Florida. Meanwhile, when it comes to China, they'll bend over backwards for communist China and say nothing about the horrors that go on in communist China. Even Ron DeSantis, I thought, had a good quip about this. He said that if the education bill was about preventing schools from teaching about the concentration camps in China, Disney probably wouldn't have said a thing. That was actually a pretty good quip. And yeah, I think in general, corporations should only get political if their rights are in jeopardy. For example, here in the state of California, when the state passed the AB5 law, which essentially made Uber and Lyft's business model illegal. I thought it was totally justified for Uber and Lyft to lobby and eventually get a ballot proposal that exempted them from that bullshit law. So yeah, I generally don't like it when corporations get political unless they are kind of forced to by the state, but I still think they have every right to do so.
Corporations are really not supposed to be involved in social issues. Corporations are really not supposed to have a lot to say about a lot of these specific issues that are outside the purview of the corporation. Now, people associated with the corporation can do whatever.
Okay, so they're not allowed to get involved if it's outside of their purview. So let's say a large corporation like, say, Burger King, let's say they chimed in on a political issue outside of their purview. Like, let's say they took a stand against something like, I don't know, net neutrality, which they actually did back in 2018, as you can see right here. They actually made a whole video about it, Burger King, and they tweeted it out, got 1.5 million views, 1.5 million views about the importance of net neutrality. Now, let's say they did this and, Trump was president on the time. Would it have been cool? Would it have been justified for Trump to find a reason to punish Burger King politically? Like maybe convince Congress to pass a tariff on imported meat, because apparently Burger King does rely somewhat on imported beef, at least according to this article from The Guardian. They import meat from countries like Brazil. Would that have been fair? Would that have been justified? Or what if, going back to Laura Ingraham, what if they decided to try to suspend Burger King's trademark protections? Would that have been nice? Does Netflix, do companies like Netflix have more of a right to chime in on stuff like net neutrality because it's in their purview, even though net neutrality is a way of Netflix benefiting by the government essentially strong-arming ISPs? Why is it okay for Netflix to chime in on this shit and a company like Burger King, who has little to nothing to do with internet service, to chime in on this issue?
They want. So, for example, Chick-fil-A never gave a corporate donation on behalf of traditional marriage. That did not stop the cities of Boston and Chicago from attempting to ban Chick-fil-A when they found out that founder Dan Cathy was supportive of traditional marriage.
Yeah, and when cities do try to ban companies like Chick-fil-A, to my knowledge, this happens a lot with companies like Walmart. It's total bullshit. They should be scrutinized for trying to ban new businesses from entering the market. I thought this was America.
The left has never made this distinction, by the way. The left doesn't care. If you're an executive of a company, and you, as an executive of that company, give money to something the left does not like, they will just punish the corporation. The right has always basically said, we're not going to punish corporations as long as those corporations don't involve themselves in issues that are outside of their purview.
So I guess this was always the standard, as long as you stay within your purview. And we can keep going with this. There are other companies that have a long history of chiming in on political issues, including companies like Ben & Jerry, who never shuts up about political issues. This was from just a few days ago. They were talking about how, on 420, in celebration of 420, they were talking about, and this is an issue I actually agree with, but how we should legalize marijuana. Maybe you could say this is in Ben & Jerry's purview, because if you smoke weed, maybe you might get the munchies and want to snack out on some junk food like Ben & Jerry's. But Ben & Jerry's is also, lobbying against alleged anti-LGBTQ legislation in Florida and Texas. I remember Ben & Jerry chiming in on the Dakota Access Pipeline. That doesn't sound like it's in their purview either. But would this justify, the trademark and patent office removing Ben & Jerry's trademark protections, or finding any reason, any political method to punish Ben & Jerry for speaking on issues outside of their purview? I say,
But here is the deal. So I am the most free market person on the right. I'm an extraordinarily pro-free market person. I don't believe,
to his credit, he's probably right here,
that generally the government should crack down on the operations of businesses. I think more freedom for businesses are good. I think that lower taxes for business are good for
Hell yeah.
the economy of Florida, for the economy of the United States more broadly. However, corporations have to stand up for their own free market bona fides. And they have to not become tools of the people who wish to destroy freedom in this country on behalf of leftist groupthink.
Yeah, okay. What? So long as you don't take positions that Ben disagrees with, then he'll stand up for your rights. Then you'll have your rights protected. What a standard to set. That could never backfire on conservatives.
Decide to just become a woke corporation that does the bidding of your democratic taskmasters, don't be surprised.
So yeah, I guess Disney just blindly goes along with whatever Democrats and the left goes along with. Keep this in mind.
And you get clocked with a legislative 2x4. F around and find out. F around, and that's what Disney did. Disney decided that it was going to inject itself into social politics in the state of Florida. It decided that it was going to try to use its massive corporate power in the state of Florida. It employs tens of thousands of people here. That is going to try to use that power in order to cudgel the state government of Florida to do the bidding of executives in New York.
Again, if Republicans are still in power, which I presume they will be unless this backfires on them, I doubt that it will. Like, what can Disney do to change the law if Republicans, especially Ron DeSantis, and he still has veto power, what can they really do to repeal the legislation?
York and Burbank, California. And instead, what it is finding out right now is that the people of Florida are not up for it. And that's particularly true if you're getting special tax benefits. If you are getting a carve out,
Special tax benefits.
if you are the recipient of the largesse of the state of Florida,
Recipient of largesse. He's making it sound like Florida's just giving them a big bag of money.
there are a few other corporations in the state of Florida who, by the way, are covered by this law. That includes, for example, the
Oh, okay. So is it really a special carve out then?
villages, right? Any place that sort of has its own special district that has been carved out for it, right? They get a special carve out. It's not a carve out specific to Disney, although it was in fact designed for Disney.
So is it really a special carve out then if other businesses and entities also have gotten this? Again, I think over 1,000, between 1,000 and 1,800 from what I've read, have similar deals with the state of Florida.
But don't expect to receive the largesse of the state of Florida if you're going to go directly up against the vote.
Again, he's using largesse as if Florida is giving them a big bag of money. And the irony is, and I think Ben Shapiro himself is going to admit this, is that this might actually end up resulting in taxpayers in neighboring counties to Disney World that might result in their tax rates going up. Oops.
Whoopsie daisy.
Now, this is all speculation, but yeah, if this ends up resulting in property owners in neighboring countries footing the bill for Disney and the bonds they've taken up and footing the bill for Disney's municipal services, that sounds like largesse to me. And if that ends up happening, I guess, way to go.
Well done.
Voters of the state of Florida on behalf of a non-Florida based contingent of people who disagree with the policies pursued by the state of Florida. If you do that, you should not be surprised if the state says, you know what, take a hike. And again, the left has no ground to stand on here. I'm amazed, truly amazed to watch as the left suddenly swivels behind Disney. Right? All these people who say that corporations are bad, they don't pay any taxes, they don't do what they're supposed to do. Why do you even need a choice between Hulu and Disney? Right? I'm amazed that all the people in California who've spent years, by the way, trying to target Disney. I mean, Gavin Newsom shut down the workings of Disneyland for 2 years
Gavin Newsom has done a lot of damage.
because of COVID. The state of California has
Even outside of COVID, Gavin Newsom has acted like a total fascist economically and has done a lot of damage.
attempted to decide the constituency of every publicly traded company in California, saying you need a gay person, you need a black person. We're going to decide exactly how your business runs, which is why businesses have been fleeing to more business-friendly states like Texas and more business-friendly states like Florida. So Democrats have no leg to stand on when it comes to, you can't get involved politically with corporate. You're going to use your leverage to go up against corporate. Listen, as I say, generally speaking, I'm very much in favor of people not using political leverage and legislation to go after corporations and businesses. When corporations and businesses step outside their purview, the predictable result is that you are going to have an anvil dropped on your head by the legislature of the state of Florida.
Oh, okay. I thought we had free speech in this country, and even according to Citizens United, that extended to corporations when they decided that corporations are also people, rightfully so, by the way, and that corporations also have free speech. I guess not according to Ben Shapiro.
And that's precisely what is happening right now. Well, these major corporations...
All right, now he's going to go into an ad, and let's jump ahead. There we go.
Get started on protecting yourself and your family. According to the Wall Street Journal, Disney initially didn't comment on the legislation, but came under pressure from employees to oppose it. This is the Parental Rights in Education bill. After it passed, the company pledged to push for its repeal and to fight similar bills in other states. And so Florida is saying to them, listen, if you guys decide that you are now in the politicking business, welcome to politics, baby. You want to play the game? You buy the ticket, you take the ride. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Under the bill passed by the...
Yeah, again, this is not about some guiding principle to make the market more fair and free and whatnot. This is clearly retribution, and Ben Shapiro seems to be a pretty big fan.
And at 2316 on Wednesday, any special district established prior to the ratification of the Florida Constitution in 1968, not renewed since then, would be dissolved on June 1, 2023. Disney could seek to reestablish a special district after its dissolution. Reedy Creek has a permanent population of about 50, as well as its own board of supervisors and fire department. It allows Disney to construct new buildings and expand its parks without having to adhere to state or county regulations related to construction, wastewater management, and drainage. It encompasses 4 theme parks, 2 water parks, a sports complex, and hotels, stores, and restaurants. David Ramba is the executive director of the Florida Association of Special Districts. He says, you'll notice you never see potholes when you drive up to Walt Disney World. That's because Disney doesn't have to wait for the county to come fix them. Reedy Creek is probably the most efficient local government in Florida because it's not a typical bureaucracy. It's run like a business. Right, but it also means they also don't have to pay for all of the red tape.
Good. And people have been making an issue about this. And maybe I can understand that there's some, that most businesses, if they reside in a city or a county, they have to deal with red tape, and it might not be fair to Disney. Although, yeah, there's a lot of debate to be had there. But it's worth noting that not all building codes are reasonable. And I think when most people think of building codes, they probably think of stuff that prevents a building from collapsing. But as we've seen in California, in some cities, they've made it illegal to build new buildings without gas lines. I think Jerry Brown mandated that new houses be built with solar panels. It's just worth noting that just because there's a regulation in some building code in some city doesn't mean that it's reasonable.
Disney currently pays property and other taxes to both counties that surround it. That'd be Osceola County and Orange County. In addition, the company...
So they pay taxes... Did he say they pay taxes to the neighboring counties?
To both, so don't have to pay for all of the red tape. Disney currently pays property and other taxes to both counties that surround it. That'd be Osceola County and Orange County. In addition, the company, as the primary landowner at Reedy Creek, provided most of the $153 million in revenue from taxes and fees the district collected in fiscal 2021. That money covers all of the district's governing expenses, including paying about 400 employee salaries and servicing about $1 billion in long-term bond debt Reedy Creek has issued over the years. If the district is dissolved, that debt would supposedly become the responsibility of taxpayers.
And I guess, going back to building codes and red tape, if there are cities and counties with some bullshit red tape that makes it difficult to build new developments and do business, then maybe the discussion should be, maybe it's time to get rid of all that red tape that's unnecessary and only a hindrance.
In Orange and Osceola counties, although it is unclear exactly how the Reedy Creek district would be dissolved. And the sort of going wisdom is that this legislation will not stand up in court because it will be seen as a punishment for speech.
It will be seen as a punishment for speech. Yeah, wouldn't that be amusing if that happened? If that was the verdict that the courts came to, that this was punishment for speech? Or as Ben Shapiro calls it, F around and find out. I wonder how Ben Shapiro is going to be a free speech warrior like he has been the last 5 to 7 years after siding with Ron DeSantis for punishing speech. It's going to be fun to see Ben Shapiro explain that one going forward.
Or that it won't stand up in court because it's just too complicated, or that they won't be able to iron out all the details. Okay, but the bottom line is this. This is a shot across the bow of woke capital. That is what is designed to be. And again,
it's good because it's a shot at woke capital, woke businesses.
I cannot get past the irony of watching folks on the left.
That's the guiding principle of the right now. Hey, if it takes a shot at the woke and the left, it's totally fine.
I cannot get past the irony of watching folks on the left demonstrate full-scale their fealty to woke capitalism. They're very into, it's not woke capitalism, by the way, it's economic fascism.
Yeah, it's economic fascism. You know what else is economic fascism? When the state punishes a business for the crime of disagreeing with the state, which is what I think DeSantis is doing. I think he's behaving like a fascist. And yeah, I waited until now to say it because often when I apply that concept to Republicans and conservatives, I get accused of being a brainwashed leftist who calls everything a fascist to the point where the word means nothing. No, I try to reserve that concept to people who are actually fascists, like Elizabeth Warren and Gavin Newsom and Ro Khanna and Josh Hawley, and now Ron DeSantis.
What an asshole!
When corporations work hand in glove with political taskmasters in order to achieve the goals of the political taskmasters in exchange for largesse, that is not capitalism. Capitalism is free markets uninvolved with the question of which politicians you bribe or which politicians tell you to do what. The notion that capitalism, which again is supposed to be about free markets and open competition, is about which politicians you get. Yeah, and I also thought that free markets meant that if you want to punish a business, you have to do it with consequences like boycotts. And you hear this a lot from the right, including pertaining to Disney. Hey, they went woke and they went broke. Chris Rufo
conservative activist Chris Rufo. He's been creaming his pants lately over Disney losing billions of dollars in market value. Even Ben Shapiro, if you can notice here, he talks later in this video about how Disney's stock has taken a hit, partly because of their woke politics that they're injecting into their programming. And you know what? If you decide you want to cancel your Disney Plus subscription over that, fine. I'm not going to stop you. Which begs the question, though, if the free market can punish Disney with consequences like cancel Disney Plus subscriptions, cancel Disneyland trips and whatnot, then do we really need political punishment like what Ron DeSantis is doing?
In your corner. It was never about this. But if you're going to engage in that game, you can't be surprised, again, when it comes back around for you, when it boomerangs on you. MSNBC's Simone Sanders commented on this yesterday, and I can't get past this clip. The reason I can't get past this clip is because Simone Sanders was the press secretary for Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is the same guy who believes that corporations are inherently evil. And then
Bernie Sanders, he's frequently condemned Disney. Bernie Sanders actually put this up on his website a couple years ago. As you can see in 2018, this is on Bernie Sanders' website, talking about how Disney, I guess, pays their workers, quote unquote, starvation wages. He's constantly tweeting shit about how unfair it is that Disney's CEO makes millions of dollars, but their theme park workers don't make nearly that much money or whatever, which actually makes me think that maybe Disney is not in a lockstep with the left, with the woke, and merely a tool of Democrat politicians, as Ben Shapiro likes to frame it.
She went on to be the press secretary for Kamala Harris, who talks about how corporations don't pay their fair share. But weird now that she's a big defender of Disney. Almost as though the left is very much in favor of corporate oligarchy, so long as those corporate oligarchs do precisely what they want. And
Ben, he has a point here. Yeah, a lot of people on the left are being total fucking hypocrites on this issue. And they don't really care about capitalism or defending corporations. They probably see corporations like Disney as a means to an end. But just because people on the left are being hypocritical clowns, it does not make what Ron DeSantis is doing right.
This is my point. Once those corporate oligarchs just decide to become tools in the left's arsenal, screw them. Really, I'm like Rorschach now. You're calling on me for my defense as a free market capitalist? My answer is no. You guys have become a weapon.
So I guess property rights are conditional, according to Ben Shapiro. So long as you don't cave to pressure from your employees and bomb throwers in the media to publicly denounce legislation that has nothing to do with you, then someone like Ben Shapiro will stand up for you if the state tries to punish you. I mean, is Ben this flimsy on stuff like free speech? I mean, he clearly is with how he's behaving now. But whatever happened to, hey, I disagree with what you say, but I will defend your right to say it. Or maybe in a few years, Ben Shapiro will say, well, first they came for the corporations and I said nothing because I needed to own the left. And again, Disney publicly disagreeing with the parental rights and education bill. Apparently, that's way beyond the pale for Ben Shapiro. But if, say, a white nationalist theocrat like Nick Fuentes, who's well known for saying horrible and crazy shit, if he loses his Twitter account or his YouTube channel, then Ben Shapiro might step up and say something. Like he did back in February of 2020 when he tweeted, Nick Fuentes is an absolute disgusting shit show, but if he was banned for his idiotic garbage viewpoints rather than for violent threats, YouTube should not be deplatforming him. And again, in July of 2021, Ben Shapiro tweeted, Nick Fuentes is a garbage person with garbage beliefs. Twitter is filled with lots of garbage people with garbage beliefs. Only certain people get banned. Nobody should trust Twitter's supposed free speech neutrality. And I know a lot of people might say that this is not the same thing. Nick Fuentes is not a big, powerful corporation like Disney. And you're right, they are not the same. Disney is a large corporation who employs tens of thousands of people in the state of Florida and has hundreds of thousands of investors who own shares in the company, millions of customers, and there are property owners in the neighboring counties whose taxes might increase. All of these people who I just mentioned might be adversely impacted because the governor of Florida has an axe to grind. And Ben Shapiro's attitude is, well, they effed around and they found out. But I guess if a private company like Twitter or Google decide that they don't want to help Nick Fuentes amplify his garbage ideas, then Ben Shapiro feels the need to speak truth to power. How convenient. And I'll end by saying this. Ben Shapiro, he's one of the better people on the right. I think he's one of the better conservatives, especially when it comes to economics. And it's one thing to have a disagreement over applications or policies, but for someone like Ben Shapiro, who's all about freedom and free markets and adhering to principles and all of that good stuff, I think Ben Shapiro is acting ridiculous here, and it's disappointing to watch.